Hare Krishna. Welcome back to our online Swadhyaya Retreat Labs, where we always read chapters from Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And if you have seen, this is our dashboard where exactly we capture what are the topics we have already read in the past. So we have specific topics, you can serial wise Bhagavad Gita. And today's session is primarily focused on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, right? So we have already studied few topics already in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the last session, if you have attended, we have completed the canto number 9, chapter number 8, that is the sons of Sagara meet Lord Kapila Deva. So today we are going to start with a new chapter, that is chapter 9, the dynasty of Amsuman. Right? So now let's, without any further ado, we will see just an overview of this chapter. How many? So this chapter is having total 49 verses, and it has been divided into three major parts to make our understanding more clear. And this is the first part. Actually, we will see how Mother Ganges delivers Sagara's sons. That is the first 15 verse. Then verse number 16 to verse number 39, we will see the story of Saudasa. And toward the end, the last 10 verses, starting from verse number 40 to 49, we will see the story of Khatvanga. So now, without any further ado, let's get started with our chapters reading. And if you're already having a hard copies, it's always better to make some notes and make your, for every chapter, after that, summarize, write your reflection points, right? And if you do not have, just visit your nearest ISKCON temple, or you can contact me for the entire set of Bhagavatam, right? Now, if you're watching it online through YouTube or watching in my platform, you can always recommend that go to the Vedabase, and from that go to Canto 9 of Srimad Bhagavatam, and from there you have to go to the chapter number 9. So let's then get started. We will study the summary part, and the first part we will study today, that is still verse number 15. Okay. So now let's get started. This chapter describes the history of dynasty of Amshuman up to Khatvanga, and it also describes how Bhagirath brought the water of the Ganges to this earth. The son of Maharaja Amsuman was Dilipa, who tried to bring the Ganges to this world, but who died without success. Bhagiratha, the son of Dilipa, was determined to bring the Ganges to the material world, and for this purpose, he underwent severe austerities. Mother Ganges, being fully satisfied by his austerities, made herself visible to him. Wanting to give him a benediction, Bhagiratha then asked her to deliver his forefathers. Although Mother Ganges agreed to come down to earth, she made two conditions. First, she wanted some suitable male to be able to control her waves. Second, although all sinful men would be free from sinful reactions by bathing in Ganges, Mother Ganges didn't want to keep all these sinful reactions with her. These two conditions were subject matters for consideration. Bhagiratha replied to Mother Ganges, the personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva, will completely able to control the waves of your water. And when your devotees bath in your water, the sinful reactions left by sinful men will be counteracted. Bhagiratha then performed austerities to satisfy Lord Shiva, who is called Asutosa, because he is naturally satisfied very easily. Lord Shiva agreed to Bhagiratha's proposal to check the force of the Ganges. In this way, simply by the touch of the Ganges, Bhagiratha's forefathers were delivered and allowed to go to the heavenly planets. The son of Bhagiratha was Sruta. The son of Sruta was Nava, and Nava's son was Sindhudvipa. The son of Sindhudvipa was Ayutayu, and the son of Ayutayu was Rituparna, and who was a friend of Nala. Rituparna gave Nala the art of gambling and learned from him the art of Aswavidya. The son of Rituparna was known as Sarvakama. The son of Sarvakama was Sudasa, and his son was Saudasa. The wife of Saudasa was named Damayanti or Madayanti, and Saudasa was also known as Kalma Sapada. Because of some defect in fruitive activity, Saudasa was cursed by Vasishtha to become a Rakshas. While walking through the forest, he saw a Brahmana engaged in sex life with his wife. And because he had become Rakshasa, he wanted to devour the Brahmana. Although the Brahmana's wife pleaded with him in many ways, Saudasa devoured the Brahmana, and the wife therefore cursed him, saying, as soon as you engage in sex, you will die. After 12 years, therefore, even though Saudasa was released from the curse of Vasishtha Muni, he remained sonless. At that time, with Saudasa's permission, Vasishtha impregnated Saudasa's wife, Madayanti. Because Madayanti bore the child for many years, but still couldn't give one, Vasishtha struck her abdomen with a stone, and thus son was born. The son was named Asmaka. The son of Asmaka was known as Balika. He was protected from the curse of Parsurama because of being surrounded by many women, and therefore he is known as Narikavacha. When the entire world was devoid of Kshatriyas, he became the original father of more Kshatriyas. He is therefore sometimes called Mulaka. From Balika, Dasaratha was born. From Dasaratha came Aidavidi, and from Aidavidi came Bishwa Saha. The son of Bishwa Saha was Maharaja Katavanga. Maharaja Katavanga joined the demigods in fighting the demons and is victorious. And it was victorious. And the demigods therefore wanted to give him a benediction. But when king inquired how long he would live and understood that his life would last only a few seconds more, he immediately left the heavenly planets and returned to his own airport by airplane. He could understand that everything in this material world is insignificant, and thus he fully engaged in worshipping the supreme personality of Godhead, Hari. So this was the summary study of this chapter. Now we will go verse by verse. Still, today we'll cover till verse number 15. So as usual, we'll be reading only the translations and the purport. And in the Sloka recitation lab, we will be going word by word meaning and details. We'll recite the slokas. Okay? The first verse, translation. Sukadeva Goswami continued. King Amsuman, like his grandfather, performed austerities for a very long time. Nonetheless, he couldn't bring the Ganges to his material world, and thereafter, in due course of time, he died. Moving to the next verse, verse number 2. Like Amsuman himself, Dilipa, his son, was unable to bring the Ganges to this material world, and he also became a victim of death in due course of time. Then Dilipa's son, Vagiratha, performed very severe austerities to bring the Ganges to this material world. Verse number 3, translation. Thereafter, Mother Ganges appeared before King Vagiratha and said, I am very much satisfied with your austerities, and I am now prepared to give you benedictions as you desire. Being thus addressed by Ganga Devi, Mother Ganges, the king bowed his head before her and explained his desire. Purport. The king's desire was to deliver his forefathers who had been burned to ashes because of disrespecting Kapila Muni. Moving to the next verse, verse number 4. Translation. Mother Ganges replied, when I fall from the sky to the surface of the planet Earth, the water will certainly be very forceful. Who will sustain that force? If I am not sustained, I shall pierce the surface of the earth and go down to Rashatala, the Patala area of the universe. Verse number 5. O king, I do not wish to go down to the planet Earth, for the people in general will bathe in my water, cleanse themselves of the reactions of their sinful deeds. When all the sinful reactions accumulate in me, how shall I become free from them? You must consider this very carefully. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Braja Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Moksheshami Masucha. I abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can accept the reactions of anyone's sinful deeds and neutralize them because he is pavitra, pure like the sun, which is never contaminated by any worldly infection. Teji Shisam na dosaya banehi sarva bhujo yatha. Bhagavatam 10.33.29. One who is very one who is very powerful is not affected by any sinful activity. But here we see that Mother Ganges fears being burdened with the sins of the people in general who could bathe in her waters. This indicates that no one but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is able to neutralize the reactions of sinful deeds, whether one's own or those of others. Sometimes the spiritual master, after accepting a disciple, must take charge of that disciple's past sinful activities, and being overloaded must sometimes suffer, if not fully, then partially, for the sinful acts of the disciple. Every disciple, therefore, must be very careful not to commit sinful activities after initiation. The poor spiritual master is kind and merciful enough to accept a disciple and partially suffer for that disciple's sinful activities. But Krishna, being merciful to his servant, neutralizes the reactions of sinful deeds for the servant who engages in preaching his glories. Even Mother Ganges fear the sinful reactions of the people in general and was anxious about how she would counteract the burden of these sins. Verse number 6, translation. Bhagirath said, those who are saintly because of devotional service and are therefore in the renounced order, free from material desire, and who are pure devotees, expert in following the regulative principles mentioned in the Vedas, are always glorious and pure in behavior, and are able to deliver all fallen souls. When such pure devotees bathe in your water, the sinful reactions accumulated from other people will certainly be counteracted. For such devotees always keep in the core of their hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can vanquish all sinful reactions. Purport. Mother Ganges is available to everyone for bathing. Therefore, not only will sinful persons bathe in the Ganges water, but in Haradwar and other holy places where the Ganges flows, saintly persons and devotees will also bathe in the water of the Ganges. Devotees and saintly persons advanced in the renounced order can deliver even the Ganges. Tirthi Kuripanti Tirthani Swantastena Gadavrita, Bhagavatam 1.13.10. Because saintly devotees always keep the Lord within the core of their hearts, they can perfectly cleanse the holy places of all sinful reactions. Therefore, people in general must always respectfully honor saintly persons. It is ordered that as soon as one sees a Vaishnava or even a sannyasi, one should immediately offer respect to such a holy man. If one forgets to show respect in this way, one must observe a fast for that day. This is a Vedic injunction. One must be extremely careful to refrain from committing offenses at the lotus feet of a devotee or a saintly person. There are methods of prayashita or atonement, but they are inadequate to cleanse one of sinful reactions. One can be cleansed of sinful reactions only by devotional service, as stated in regard to the history of Ajamila. Kechit kevalabhya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agam nirmantik prashteya niranam iva vaskara. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. Bhagavatam 6.1.15. If one is under the protection of a devotee and sincerely renders service unto him by this process of Bhakti Yoga, one is certainly able to counteract all sinful reactions. Moving to the next verse. Like cloth woven of threads, extending for its length and breadth, this entire universe, in all its latitude and longitude, is situated under different potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the incarnation of the Lord. and thus he represents the super soul in the embodied soul. He can sustain your forceful waves on his head. Purport. The water of the Ganges is supposed to rest on the head of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who sustains the entire universe by different potencies. Lord Shiva is described in the Brahma Samhita 5.45. Kriram yada dadi vikara vises yogat sanjayat nahi tarav prithak asti heto यह संभूतम अपि था samupati karyat govindam adipurusham tamaham bhajami. Milk changes into yogurt when mixed with a yogurt culture, but actually yogurt is constitutionally nothing but milk. Similarly, Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, assumes the form of Lord Shiva for the special purpose of material transactions. I offer my obeisances at a Lord Govinda's lotus feet. Lord Shiva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the same sense that yogurt is also milk, although at the same time it is not a milk. For the maintenance of the material world, there are three incarnations: Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is Vishnu in an incarnation for the mode of ignorance. The material world exists predominantly in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, Lord Shiva is compared here to the longitude and latitude of the entire universe, which resembles a cloth woven of threads extending for both its length and breadth. Moving to the next verse. Translation. After saying this, Bhagirath satisfied Lord Shiva by performing austerities. O King Parikshit, Lord Shiva was very quickly satisfied with Bhagirath. Purport. The words Ashwa Atushyata indicate that Lord Shiva was satisfied very soon. Therefore, another name for Lord Shiva is Asutosa. Materialistic persons become attached to Lord Shiva because Lord Shiva bestows benedictions upon anyone and everyone very quickly, not caring to know how his devotees prosper or suffer. Although materialistic persons know that material happiness is nothing but another side of suffering, they want it, and to get it very quickly, they worship Lord Shiva. We find that materialists are generally devotees of many demigods, especially Lord Shiva and Mother Durga. They do not actually want spiritual happiness, for it is almost unknown to them. But if one is serious about being happy spiritually, he must take shelter of Lord Vishnu. As the Lord personally demands, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Raja Aham Tum Sarva Papebhyo Mokshishami Masucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Moving to the next verse. When King Bhagirath approached Lord Shiva and requested him to sustain the forceful waves of the Ganges, Lord Shiva accepted the proposal by saying, "Let it be so." Then, with great attention, he sustained the Ganges on his head, for the water of the Ganges is purified, having emanated from the toes of Lord Vishnu. Verse number 10. The great and saintly King Bhagiratha brought the Ganges, which can deliver all the fallen souls, to that place on earth where the bodies of his forefathers lay burnt to ashes. Next verse, verse number 11. Bhagiratha mounted a swift chariot and drove before Mother Ganges, who followed him, purifying many countries until they reached the ashes of Bhagiratha's forefathers, the sons of Sagara, who were thus sprinkled with water from the Ganges. Verse number 12. Because the sons of Sagara Maharaj had offended a great personality, the heat of their bodies had increased and they were burned to ashes. But simply by being sprinkled with water from the Ganges, all of them became eligible to go to the heavenly planets. What then is to be said of those who use the water of Mother Ganges to worship her? Purport. Mother Ganges is worshipped by the water of the Ganges. A devotee takes little water from the Ganges and offers it back to the Ganges. When the devotee takes the water, Mother Ganges doesn't lose anything. And when the water is offered back, Mother Ganges doesn't increase, but in this way, worshipper of the Ganges is benefited. Similarly, a devotee of the Lord offers Lord Patram Puspam Phalam Toyam, a leaf, flower, fruit, or water, in great devotion that everything, including the leaf, flower, fruit, and water, belongs to the Lord. And therefore, there is nothing to renounce or to accept. One must simply take advantage of the bhakti process, because by following this process, one doesn't lose anything, one gains the favor of the Supreme Person. Moving to the next verse number 13. Simply by having water from the Ganges come in contact with the ashes of their burnt bodies, the sons of Sagara Maharaj were elevated to the heavenly planets. Therefore, what is to be said for a devotee who worships Mother Ganges faithfully with a determined vow? One can only imagine the benefit that accrues to such a devotee. Verse number 14. Because Mother Ganges emanates from the lotus feet, from the lotus tree of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Anantadeva, she is able to liberate one from material bondage. Therefore, whatever is described herewith about her is not at all one purport. It has actually been seen that anyone who regularly worships Mother Ganges, simply by bathing in her water, keeps very good health and gradually becomes a devotee of the Lord. This is the effect of bathing in the water of the Ganges. Bathing in the Ganges is recommended in all Vedic Shastras, and one who takes to this path will certainly be completely freed from all sinful reactions. The practical example of this is that the sons of Maharaja Sagar went to the heavenly planets where water from the Ganges nearly touched the ashes of their burnt bodies. Verse number 15, translation. Great sages, completely freed from material lusty desires, devote their minds fully to the service of the Lord. Such persons are liberated from material bondage without difficulty, and they become transcendentally situated, acquiring the spiritual quality of the Lord. This is the glory of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead. So with that note, we'll just quickly summarize. So in today's sessions, out of 49 verses, we covered verse number 1 till verse number 15. We have seen how Mother Ganges delivers Sagara's sons. In the next section, we will start with the next segment, that is the story of Saudasa, and followed by the next session, we will see the story of Khatpanga. And with this, we can complete in the 9th canto, 9th chapter in the next 2 coming sessions. Thanks for joining in. Stay tuned, and we'll be getting the quizzes and very soon in your platform. And definitely looking forward. If you have any queries, definitely we'll try to answer those. Thank you very much. Hari Krishna. Rest of Father Ki Jai.